Let's do it. Another episode of Coffee Time. Light up the outdoor stove. And I gotta figure out a way to do something a little different. And guess what? Somebody calling me. Let me get on to the phone. Hang on 1 second. But I got the little mic on, so it's gonna work out fine. Yep. So I'm gonna have to get up with Bleezy in a little bit. Shucks. It's hard being hurt, man. So let me check this out. Make sure this is still burning. Yep. In fact, I'm gonna crank the heat is high enough. I'm trying to leave a little air gap right there. Open this up. And now with this angle, you should be able to see. Nope, you can't see inside the mocha pot. That's okay. Let me try to adjust this. No, I'm gonna just leave it there. That's gonna have to work. I'm drinking some more electrolytes. I did a 20-mile ride today and trying to stay hydrated. Man, that's good. So for this episode of Coffee Time, I kind of wanted to talk to you about something that I think is kind of important. And it's called communication. Tell you a little story. When I was coming up, my parents forced us to talk to adults. And even people we didn't know. Some things are considered rude in my culture, and some things aren't. But conversation was important, and we were expected to make conversation. But conversation is something that is rare these days, especially good conversation. And so I think that as a society, conversation is a dying art. And that it is art. Oftentimes I watch interviews or I watch smart people, wealthy people, successful people, as they say, and they can't articulate or express how they feel. Sometimes even their opinion. And I'm often left disappointed because I don't understand how a person can't express themselves. So I don't know. But I think conversation is a dying art. And that's one of the nice things about Coffee Time. We get a chance to communicate and solve the world's problems one conversation at a time. And I'm trying a new technique with this mocha pot by adjusting the flame to lower once it starts to brew. And I don't know if I'm doing it right or not. And that's the beautiful thing about doing it enough. You'll figure it out. But it's brewing nice. And I wish I was a little bit higher going down so you could see the nice coffee coming out, the spiju, the spigot. Smell the spit. And I just do that for y'all, for cinematography. And I like my coffee hot. And I don't really care for the cream and the sugar. But I can tell you right now, that's too hot to drink. And that's when I really like it. So I'm not gonna let it cool down. Shucks. Not gonna let it cool down, huh? And I should have turned this glass back when it was empty, but I didn't. So conversation. That's a really good cup. That is a really good cup. So conversation is something that's very important. And conversation is something that is dying. When Sous Chef was a little pup, I would tell her all the time when she come from school, how was school? It was good. And that went on for about a year and a half, 2 years. Then I said, how was school? It was good. And I said, well, what was good about it? Everything. Everything was good. And that went on for about 5 years. So conversation was not improving. Was not improving. And I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about no young people because I don't believe that that is a successful approach to motivating or educating or mentoring or helping young people when it comes down to communication, when it comes down to the art of conversation. But I was looking at something, I don't know if it was LES Barbecue, but he has a podcast that he's on. And he was talking about how a lot of people like podcasts because of the fact that they have a conversation. And I thought that was pretty profound. And I had never really considered it till he said it. But the art of conversation is a very special skill set. Oftentimes in the workforce or in life or in relationships or in meeting people. For example, I went to the airport a few times and I noticed everybody had earbuds in and they were looking at their phone screen. And down in New Orleans, we don't have a stranger in New Orleans. Everybody, as a majority in a whole, they talk to everybody. At least a greeting, a simple greeting. And every now and then they might say, how your mom and them? I mean, how everybody doing? How your family? You know, how's everybody going? So it's customary. They get that. People want to know how your family doing. And so we're a very communal culture and conversation is part of it. But like all cultures, we have our challenges with people who are introverted or people who just would rather listen. You know, one of my greatest mentors in the fire service, he would oftentimes, we drank coffee, we'd have coffee time all the time. And he'd just sit around and listen because he enjoyed the chatter of people talking. He enjoyed looking at people express themselves. He enjoyed looking at people who were debating a subject because he was a very observant person and that's how he learned. So him in conversation, he would be looking at a YouTube video, in other words, a live YouTube video, 2 people talking, 5 people talking, and he enjoyed observing the conversation. And when it was a situation where it was one-on-one with him, man, he was great with conversation, could talk about a lot of different subjects. And so some of that was because he listened to a lot of conversation. So the art of conversation, regardless of being introverted or extroverted, do you have the art of conversation? Now, I'm not trying to say you need, you must, you shall. I'm saying it'd be nice if you could. Because so much of our human connection is being lost. So much of our human connection is being lost. I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not trying to start a debate, but they have cars that drive you around. I think there are benefits to that. I think there are cons to that. It's like whoever invented the automobile didn't know that people, more than likely, they didn't conceive it. They didn't think people would strike pedestrians, bicyclists, other automobiles, and kill the human being that they struck. They never foresaw that people would go to a bar and get crispy, cascade, drunk, crap faced, or whatever it's called in your neck of the woods, get behind the wheel and try to get home and end up taking people out. I don't think they realize that at some point a person would text message and drive. And because they're distracted, take a person out. Or that someone would take a automobile, load it up with fertilizer and diesel, and put it next to a federal building. Or people would take them and load them up with a concoction of substances and detonate it in a parking garage. Or, because of their hatred, ride it into a crowd of people, unsuspecting. So, I'm not saying that self-driving cars are bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sometimes, as a people, we don't realize how things are changing and the etymology of the change that's going to come as a result of an invention. But with conversation, we have an opportunity to grow, to understand, and to be better humans. For example, all conversations shouldn't change a person to where they can't learn the other person's point of view. Like in a debate format, it's an exchange of ideas. You have your view, I have my view. There's nothing to get emotional about. I may not agree with your view, but because of the dialogue, because of the conversation, did I at least understand your view? So if I understand your view after we have dialogue, whether I like you or not, I like your view or not, agree with you or not, agree with your view or not, at least I should have gained some understanding after the exchange of dialogue. I hope that makes sense. But oftentimes, conversation, it's not productive. It's not efficient. And quite frank, it's downright unwholesome. A lot of our communication is nonverbal. Take, for example, husband come home from work. And I'm only picking on husbands because I am one. Husbands come home from work. Dishes in the sink. They playing the dish rack Olympics in the house. The carpet dirty. The floor is dirty. The house is dirty. Nothing's cooked. You know? How is the next conversation going to go? If you even have one. When I was firefighting, it was amazing because a lot of times the buck got passed. And when you come to work, some guys came to work and they were looking critically for something to not be done correctly. And that affects conversation. So if they found the truck and they found mud on the tires or the mud flaps or the undercarriage, that's going to affect the next conversation or the next dialogue that you're going to have. So sometimes we don't communicate effectively or efficiently because you know what? Things just change, just like the car. It wasn't my intention on coming home and seeing a dirty house and then the dialogue or the conversation not being productive or efficient. But it happens. But I know that I don't want to have trouble at home. So maybe I'm not going to expect all of this stuff to be done when I get home. Maybe I'll just wash the dishes myself. Or maybe I'll just pick up all of the dishes from the dish rack Olympics myself. So sometimes though, we have an opportunity to communicate and we don't do it effectively because our emotions are in it, or maybe it's not a good time to talk. So the art of conversation is something that affects our life every day. And having the art of conversation, but also understanding that each conversation is not going to go the way you want it to go. So don't approach a conversation with the idea that I need to be heard. Everybody needs to accept my view, and my view is the best view. Just approach conversation wanting to understand. Take a sip. Just approach a conversation wanting to understand. And don't have an expectation. Now, I can tell you right now, boy, when I was coming up, sometimes the conversations wasn't good. And it was like I needed to cough up the answers, you know? Now, how did I know that was going to be the perfect measurement? I really didn't. But I know in this pot, I get more coffee than in that small mocha I got. Perfect pour. Man, this coffee costs too much to dribble it. And so all I'm trying to say is, conversation is a dying art. We have opportunities to conversate, and we have opportunities to explore other ideas and to diversify. And sometimes in diversification, it's good when you don't agree. Because if everybody agree with you, how are you diversified? You're not. There's more than one way to eat a Reese's. There's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to do everything. And it's only through diversification do we actually learn and grow. Now, I was looking at a video the other day, and somebody was cutting the onion up. So they basically cut the top and the bottom off the onion. Then they peel all of the outer fiber off. And then they hold it in their hand and they hit the onion repeatedly. Then they turn it the opposite direction and hit it repeatedly. And they say that's how you dice an onion. I hope y'all don't do that, because y'all gonna cut y'all hand all up trying to do that with them dull knives y'all got. That is not a good technique to dice up an onion. Now, if you did that your whole life coming up, that's different. But if you're gonna do something like that to dice an onion, put on a cutlass glove, hold an onion in your hand, and then go Freddy Krueger on it. But make sure you got a cutlass glove on if you're gonna do something like that. Now, if you looked at that video and you was like, man, that sounds like a good idea. And then you look at this video and I'm like, man, don't do that unless you have on a cutlass glove. See how that made you understand both points of views? But now you can make a better decision from just gathering the facts. I don't recommend that style at all, because I think it's reckless to the average person who did not come up in that kind of culture. You don't know what kind of knife the person is using. You don't know the sharpness of the knife. You don't know any of that. And one of the most dangerous things is cutting an onion with a dull knife. But one of the most dangerous things also is cutting an onion with a sharp knife when you have your hand underneath the onion and you're striking downwards. Don't recommend it at all. So anyway, I'm just saying all that to say this, that conversation should be an art that everybody knows how to have. Leave the emotions out of it. Expect that the conversation ain't gonna go the way you want it to go. And also know that it's okay when it doesn't go the way you want it to go. Because now you got an opportunity to learn from the conversation. And if you leave the emotions out of it, you'll get offended less in conversation. So just something to think about. But if you're one of those people who always conversate, thank you. Thank you. We're going to take over the world one day. And if you're one of those people who enjoy listening to conversations, thank you. And if you're one of those people who don't see the value of conversating, let me illustrate it like this. Conversating when you're younger, if you learn it, it's a great tool and resource to have. Whether you use it or not, it's a great tool and resource to have. But think about it like this. When you were first born, hopefully, your parents, your guardian, whoever loved you, and if nobody loved you, somebody loved you. I'm telling you that right now. But if nobody ever loved you, hopefully somebody taught you how to brush your teeth, right? Because what happens if you don't brush your teeth? You're going to have a lot of problems in life. A lot of problems. Just not taking care of your teeth leads to a host of problems. For example, you have self-esteem issues. You will not like your smile. You will smile and not do a full smile because of your teeth. You will have trouble with relationships at times, at least starting a relationship, because you're so self-conscious about your smile. So if you brushed your teeth and you took care of your teeth, when you get a little older, you alleviate yourself of all of those problems just because you did one simple thing. You took care of your teeth. No matter how crooked, buck, how many you got, you took care of them, right? But conversations are just like that. If you learn how to do it when you're young, you'll have that ability for a long time. But you know what? Some of us, we didn't take care of our teeth when we was young. But it ain't hopeless, you know? You can learn how to conversate. You can learn how to conversate. And look, if you need some help, I'll teach you how to conversate. You know, I'll teach you how to conversate. So that was a joke. But take care of your art of conversation so that it'll last a long time. Also, don't be afraid to conversate with people that don't look like you, that don't think like you, and don't have the same upbringing as you. Because the more you conversate with different people, the better you'll be. And I'll illustrate that this way. When I was in school, we had Spanish speaking people, we had Vietnamese speaking people. I don't really remember, but I think we may have had a few Arabic language folks, you know. I learned a little bit of Spanish. I didn't learn no Vietnamese. And now that I'm 43, I wish I'd have learned a little bit of all of those languages. Because the more you know, the more diverse you are, the better you are. So if I'm at the ideal market, I can use a little bit of the Spanish that I know. And that'll go a long way with my experience at the store at that time. When I'm at the Vietnamese market, I can use a little bit of the Vietnamese that I know. That'll go a long way with my experience at the Vietnamese market. So the more diversified you are, the better off you are. It's sort of like in this country, a lot of people say speak English if you want to be here. But in other places around the world, those folks speak 7, 8. I know a guy who speaks 10 languages. He could go anywhere. He could go anywhere and not be insecure because he don't know the language. He could go anywhere and not be insecure because of this barrier in language, because of this barrier of not understanding the culture of people. It only makes you better. You know, the whole world using metric and we using inches and feet. You know what I mean? Like, So if I go to Europe, I don't even know what a meter is. I don't even know what a yard is. I don't even know what a kilometer is. You see what I'm saying? But if you learn it, it only makes you better. Conversation only makes you better, especially when you do it efficiently and you know the art of conversation. So that's enough of my yapping. I enjoyed this episode of Coffee Time. I really did. And this cup is great. Ah. I love the mocha pot because the mocha pot helps you to slow down and not be in a rush. Man. And right now, this coffee is not cold. It's about 100 degrees. And it's a nice temperature to chug, you know. But I got some more stuff I need to do today. And as you can see, the sun is going down. Um, First Lady, her company, Resonating Creations, right here, she made all these stickers, you know. And so that's some of my family's channel. But I'm gonna, I'm working on some stuff. Let me just say that. And I really just want to take this moment to thank everybody who supports the channels, all of the channels. And I want to thank everybody who supports the channels. And I also want to thank you if you support any social media channel because you're spending your precious time looking at somebody who's trying to do whatever they're trying to do, you know. I think social media makes us stronger as a people because if you don't know, like say for example, if you grew up in an area where you don't see people that's colored, or you see me, I'm not gonna bite you, you know. You can learn from me and I can learn from you. And I think that's the power of social media. I live in New Orleans. If you don't know nobody from New Orleans, guess what? You know me, we're not gonna bite you, you know? And I think social media gives you a bird's eye view into the life of the person behind the camera or in front of the camera. Even though a lot of it is fake, and I shouldn't say fake, a lot of it is facade. You know, it's like the guy who dresses up in a nice suit and he don't have $5 in his pocket and he's got a negative at the bank. You know what I mean? But he looked good. So social media definitely has a lot of that. But as you know, this channel is very raw and realistic because I'm just like y'all. I'm just like y'all. So there's nothing and no need to be fake here, you know, and everybody's welcome. I found this ski on a garbage dump and I was like, man, that is a beautiful ski. So I asked the owner of it, I said, hey, are you throwing that away? He said, yeah. I said, can I take it? He said, yeah. Because this was the vision I had. I just didn't know it. But I knew I was going to use that ski for something. So First Lady made all of the stickers for it. And I'm going to put a clear coat on it. I might even do a little resin pour over it just to kind of protect it a little bit. I don't know. But I might just tape some of that tape around it and just pour some resin over the top of it. I got to figure out how to do all that. But First Lady does resin art and all that good stuff too, you know. She makes all kind of knickknacks, doodads, and custom pieces. So check out her page, please. Resonating Creations LLC. Give her a follow. If you want some of her commissioned resin work, you know what I mean? Holla at her. She do custom anniversary pieces, wedding pieces, all kind of things, you know. Bad Cook 81, that's one of my good friends. He's a dad, father of two, and he's cooking and trying to, get into this social media thing with his cooking ability. A lot of good content. Shots, Pints, Pours, Nola. That's my brother-in-law's page. And he's going to delve into the world of shots, pints, pours, and check him out. he's trying to build his social media presence as well. And all the way to the left, CHEZ, CUDDIE, Shaz Cuddy Fam 1. That is my sister. That's Chef. CHEZ, CUDDIE, FAM 1. Shaz Cuddy Fam she gonna take over TikTok. I already know that. She's got a lot of talent, and she doing her thing, you know. Proud of her. So, you know, that's where we at. Now, I will say this. It's been a good episode of Coffee Time. I want to say thank y'all for y'all support. Thanks for the encouragement. My riding streak is still going. Today was 223 days straight, and I'm really thankful for that. Day 223. And, you know, I survived yesterday. Yesterday, I rode 105 miles, and it's crazy. It's crazy, but I'm crazy, so there you go. So I'll see y'all at the next one. Thanks for this episode of Coffee Time. And just remember this. Hold on one second. We make a good team. Thanks for the support. And y'all come back now, you hear?